Why don't we?
And would like to call this meeting to order. There are no minutes to present. Appointments, recognitions, and resignations. Appointment of Catherine Marr as part-time treasurer at a rate of $40 per hour effective April 1, 2021.
Yeah. Kathy's last official day will be the 29th, I believe. And so, or the 26th. And there'll be a bit of a gap because we're going to be doing interviews for the position the week of March 29th through April 2nd. So we're going to need to have treasurer capacity during that time, but we won't need it full time. So Kathy's agreed to work up to a maximum of 24 hours per week as necessary. And then after we hire, she would scale that back to up to 16 hours a week, depending on how much the new person would require to get up to speed. So,
oh, that's great. That's perfect. That'll work.
Yeah, so we'll be well covered during that time, so that we won't have any gaps there. So I think that's great. I'm very delighted that she's agreed to do that.
Okay.
Indeed.
Well, good.
This is Wendy. I would move approval of Kathy Mahar as part-time treasurer at a rate of $40 per hour effective April 1, 2021.
I'll second.
Okay, good. Any further discussion? Wendy, how do you vote?
Wendy Littlefield votes aye.
Martha, how do you vote?
Martha Dudman votes aye.
Jeff, how do you vote?
Jeff Wood votes aye.
Matt, how do you vote?
Matt Hart votes aye.
And John McCauley votes aye. Great.
Thank
Consent
you very
agenda.
much.
Thank you, Kathy, too.
Consent agenda. Thank you note to Waste Management from resident Lelania Avila. Hancock County Commissioners Special Meeting Minutes of February 16, 2021, and letter from Maine Department of Marine Resources regarding a shoreline survey in Mount Desert for the 2021 season in March.
I would move we accept the agenda as presented.
Second.
Good. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Thank you. Any selectmen's reports? Okay. And unfinished business, update of the personnel policy in conformance with the earned paid leave law effective January 1, 2021.
I gave you a memo, and you also saw the highlighted sections of how the personnel policy will change to bring us in conformance with the law. As you remember, I should say you had decided, and we had recommended that no additional paid leave be granted to employees that already had paid leave, as we have a very generous policy. So what it amounts to is a matter of restructuring 40 hours of the paid leave into this employee paid leave time. And so that meant changing the accrual rate for the vacation hours, and also, putting the policies of how it can be used and how much you can carry over. So I'd entertain any questions you might have. Hopefully it was fairly clear on the red line version of what we were attempting to do to bring that into line. So
I'll move approval.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None opposed.
thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Very good.
New business. Discussion concerning holding a community forum to discuss the warrant article to fund an engineering study for the proposed fire department addition to the town office.
I don't think Bill Firm is with us tonight, but what I'm trying to do, I'd like to get from Bill some dates if he has any conflicts, but I'd like to get from you folks some potential dates that you'd like to do that and times, and then I can get back to Bill and confirm with him what he can do. As far as I know, Bill is pretty wide open. I don't think he has any obvious conflicts, but we probably ought to have a couple of alternatives at least. So,
I'd prefer we didn't do it the third week of April because that's vacation week and it's a tough week
hmm.
for people to come out.
Oh, that's a good idea, Martha.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. A
But
lot of people may be
hmm.
doing some things, yeah.
maybe that last week in April where it's right before town meeting, so we fresh in people's minds.
Sure.
The week of
Are
the
you
20th.
envisioning this like as an evening meeting, I'm assuming, probably?
I would
I
think
would.
Yeah. So what
Yeah.
time would you like to do it?
I think
6 o'clock, 6:30, I don't know.
it doesn't really matter to me. I think 6 o'clock probably at the earliest.
I think 6 o'clock, and I'm sure Bill will make an effort. But if we had some kind of agenda where we knew, we could try to keep it to an hour. I think if you're a member of the public, just with a few questions, you don't want to feel sucked in for an entire evening.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I would say either that Monday or Tuesday, the 26th or 27th might be good.
I would prefer
I
the
would-
Tuesday if that works.
Either one is fine with me.
I
Why
would
don't I
think,
do this? I'm sorry, why don't I do this? Do you want to put just Monday, Tuesday, or Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? Give three choices. What would you like there with Tuesday as the preference?
Sure.
Yeah, that sounds fine.
All right, so what I'll do is I'll get back to Bill and I'll ask him if he could do the 27th. If he can't, I'll say, what about the 26th or the 28th?
Okay.
Or the 29th for that matter. It's Thursday. I mean, that's,
Thursday? Okay,
but
it gives us 4
Tuesday-
nights.
Sounds like Tuesday would be the first. That would be great. And
Yeah.
whatever.
Sure.
Hmm.
I'll get on that tomorrow and see if I can firm that up and I'll let you know.
Terrific.
It's good.
Now, should we, lacking a date, should we wait to make a motion?
Why don't you just make a motion to hold it the week of April 26th through 29th?
All right.
Date to be selected.
Okay, good.
And then you
John,
can.
I just have a quick question. Would there ever be a way that we could get something out to have for Mike's benefit mostly? If community members have questions, if they could submit them earlier, just
Mhm.
so nothing. We've been doing that a lot with some of our school meetings and it tends to save time and it also just tends to get the most information out in the short time that people have for a meeting.
I
Yeah,
think that's
because
a
all
really
the-
good idea. Yeah.
Because on the website, they can submit questions and things, so we could put something out there to have them do that. If you have questions that you would like to have covered, send them and then we can compile them.
And then, maybe we could invite Mike to, give a synopsis and he could, try as he might to address some, of the questions we had and then the questions that anybody from, just to help
Yeah.
see where we are.
I don't see
Sure,
why
that's a
we
good idea.
couldn't do that.
Yeah.
I don't see why we couldn't do that.
I have a question, if it's all right.
Sure.
Why do you feel you need to do this?
Well, I think one of the things, John, and I won't speak for the board, I'll let them speak. I think it's a good idea based on the fact that we had a great discussion, I thought, at the warrant committee on pros and cons. And I think it would be nice if the public had a chance to, going into town meeting to have the benefit of a very similar discussion, should they so choose.
Yeah, I would add too that I think as we've all become kind of used to these Zoom meetings, I think if someone had a question, I think they'd have an easier time potentially, in some cases, asking that question here in kind of a smaller setting than waiting until the town meeting to kind of come up to the front of the parking lot behind a microphone. I think some people just might be more comfortable this way, and there'll certainly be a repetition of the same questions, but it'll give people maybe a chance to get theirs answered a little easier directly.
So if anybody has any questions, I need to wait till the end of April?
Well, I think what we're saying is they could submit a question to Mike anytime. They might not receive a public answer until the end of April.
And we're hoping to have a way for community members to submit a question prior to that community forum as well, just to give Mike a chance and everybody a chance to see what questions there are out there and what support we've got or not.
The question I have is, you have a certain amount committed to building the $5 million meeting. And it's the same dollar amount to do the $2.5 million meeting. This is on the Article 24.
That's an up to, John. That doesn't mean you have to spend up to that. That is an upper limit. That's not a contracted limit. So hopefully the complexity of the, or lack of complexity compared to the smaller.
Because realistically, to
project
me,
will reflect.
it seems that now that we have Soamesville involved in this, which we probably should have anyway, and you have the ambulance service involved in this, that this should be altogether one thing, not two things. I really honestly feel that it needs to be totally studied and determine how many people are going to be where are our fire calls, what's the history of it, where is our ambulance calls, what's the history of it, what does the future look like, before we spend any money on anything. I think this all ought to be one thing, and it all ought to be probably a special town meeting. It just doesn't seem to make sense to spend $2.5 million on something that we may or may not know we really need. I know we don't need a fourth bay in Northeast Harbor that Mike wants. I don't think it's necessary at all. And I think it's just it's a wish list thing what I'm trying to look at here is, I don't want a situation where people decide that this is all way too much and it doesn't make any sense and we're not going to spend anything. I'd rather have a more unified approach to solving a whole town problem that everybody can get on board with. That's my real concern here, is I think it's just going to get shot down. And then where do we stand from that point? That's my fear. I think it's necessary to do the whole thing. I think it's necessary to do Soamesville. As a matter of fact, I brought it up, I think, in a selectmen's meeting. That's where I thought everything was going. I just want to take a common sense approach to all of this. So many times this town puts things ahead of itself. For example, on Main Street, doing Main Street over, but not getting all the easements they needed in order to do what they need to do on Main Street, but they already funded the project. That's just an example. I think it ought to just be a whole thing put together. I don't think we're in that much of a rush for time that this needs to be rushed and why not, let's just do it right. That's just my opinion. And I think that's some of the concerns people I have talked to have the same feelings. So it's just my thought for you guys out there.
Appreciate that.
Trina, can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
So my question is not necessarily this item, but is it precedent setting to have a special meeting about a special warrant article to give people more information? Because people, with any other warrant article, we expect them to do their research. We expect them to go to town meeting. We expect them to ask their questions at town meeting. We expect them, Mike Bender is so approachable. If anybody has a question, people are going to call him and say, hey, Mike, help me understand this one. Please explain this to me. I can't imagine Mike not even answering those questions. And he probably gets, or would get, 77 calls, all the same question. And each time he would be gracious and that no one would know that they were the 77th person asking the very same question. I just don't understand why we're making this warrant article be the special one, why we're having this special meeting. That's the part I don't understand. Why is this so special?
Can I answer that or try to answer?
Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
I think that's just because based on the amount of questions we've already received sort of in this kind of long, all over the place process we've had to getting to this point. I think it's just to give people another opportunity to ask questions they haven't yet had the opportunity to ask. I think if there was another warrant article that we had received a similar volume of questions on, we would likely try to do the same. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and we have done that in the past. Usually big ticket items like this that are liable to raise lots of questions, we do have a public forum.
And I also think timing, I think as information has come in, this meeting, the warrant, the deadlines have gotten closer and closer and closer. And Mike's expressed his concern and about timing and waiting too long. And now with the information about the ambulance coming in, and while we might have time, years go by fast. And so I feel like just to make sure we do have all the information and we don't rush it into, the warrant as everything is right now. And then, to have some time to, if we need it, I mean, maybe we don't, maybe we'll go to this community forum and, find out there's not a lot of questions and that we can move forward. But I just think the timing too allows us to get
Yeah,
all.
Martha?
I was just going to make a motion that we hold a community forum the last week in April at a date that works for all of us to discuss the warrant article to fund an engineering study for the proposed fire department addition to the town office.
I would second that.
Great. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
And Darlene, could we just make sure we make the effort? It probably doesn't need to be right now, but within the next few weeks, maybe when we get into April, letting folks know that there is an alley to sort of submit questions to Mike beforehand if they'd like to.
Sure. Yep,
Okay,
we can do that.
all right. Any other business?
I've got just a couple of quick items, John.
Okay,
One, we would like to restore the spring cleanup to its traditional time, the last week in April. Remember last year during the COVID time, we postponed it to June, but we'd like to go back to a traditional April school vacation week, which seemed to work well with everyone. So if you have no objections to that, we will push forward and get that advertised out. So.
sounds good to me.
And the other thing is, Maine Municipal released information on the American Rescue Plan Act, which is better known as the stimulus. It looks like to me, from what the website said, that the town of Mount Desert could expect to receive $210,000 as a result of that. And I've got this, if I could just read you this quick paragraph from MMA, this will kind of explain what this will be all about and where it's going. Do you mind if I take 30 seconds to do that?
Go ahead. Yep.
Okay. It says, this is from Maine Municipal Association. It says, we know municipal officials are anxious to know more about the American Rescue Plan Act's local fiscal recovery fund program and how it will be implemented. Many are already asking questions about the amount of funds that their community will receive, how they will access those funds, and for what specific purposes the ARP funds may be used. At this point, Maine Municipal Association understands that the U.S. Treasury Department is drafting rules and guidance, which we hope will address those questions. We do expect Treasury will require local governments to certify need and that the funds will be used only as prescribed by the American Rescue Plan Act. MMA will provide its members with written information, guidance, and webinars on access and how to use ARP funds as soon as federal rules and directives are available. When we receive our ARP information, we will pass it along to you. So that is coming down the line. We don't know much about the specific guidance about its use, but we can expect a $210,000 influx of those funds. And so eventually this will come back to you on the agenda as soon as we know more.
Good.
That's all
Do you
I
need a
have.
motion for April for the trash pickup?
Oh, you'll just have one, yes, to be on the safe side, why not?
All
You
right.
voted last year to make it in June, so you could vote to bring it back in April, if you'd be so inclined.
I will entertain a motion.
I was trying to make a motion, but I was muted.
Oh.
I would, this is Jeff Wood, I would move that we direct Derlin and the town to restore the spring cleanup week to the week of April vacation, beginning this next month in 2021.
Would second that.
Great. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you. That's all I have.
I did have one item, and
Go
I don't
ahead,
know if
Matt.
you can answer this tonight. Jen Buchanan in the town office, who does such a great job putting the town report together. In the past, I've made like a little insert for it about the food that we provided at the town meeting. Well, obviously, we're not doing that this year, but she asked me if I would make a little similar thing regarding the fact that it was going to be a drive-in meeting. But I'm not sure we've actually decided on like a start time for the meeting, for example. So there was just some information that
Yeah,
I
what
thought-
we've got, unless you change it, is our traditional time of 6 o'clock.
clock. Do we know, and maybe it's too early for this, about like a potential rain date or anything like that?
There's one rain date available. We could do it, actually, would be up to 2 rain dates available because Southwest Harbor is going on Monday. We'd be going on Tuesday. So it would be traditionally be the Wednesday if there was a rain date on that.
Okay, but would it be okay if, we put some kind of vague language just saying that if inclement weather prevents the meeting from being held, please check town website and
Yeah, sure.
whatnot like that? Okay. So
I
6
think we
o'clock.
did that last year when we had it in August. I think we had similar language.
Okay. I don't think it'll be 90 degrees out again this year in May. So like it was in
Doubt it.
August last year.
Yeah. All right. Okay, anything else? All right, well, then I guess I will read the warrant. Warrants to be approved and signed, town invoice AP 2152 in the amount of $467,042.96.
Move approval.
Second.
Second,
Okay, Wendy, how do you vote?
Wendy Littlefield votes aye.
Jeff, how do you vote?
Jeff Wood votes aye.
Matt, how do you vote?
Matt Hart votes aye.
Martha, how do you vote?
Martha Dudman votes aye.
And John votes aye. Authorized warrants to be signed. Town state fees and payroll benefits AP 2150 in the amount of $2,248.68. AP 2151 in the amount of $6,397. Town payroll PR 2121 in the amount of $105,456.61.
Martha Dudman moves signature.
Jeff Wood seconds.
Okay, Martha, how do you vote?
Martha Dudman votes aye.
Jeff, how do you vote?
Jeff Wood votes aye.
Wendy, how do you vote?
Wendy Littlefield abstains.
Okay, Matt, how do you vote?
Matt Hart votes aye.
And John votes aye. Warrants to be acknowledged, school invoice number 10 in the amount of $41,669.98, and school payroll number 19 in the amount of $90,632.50.
I would move approval.
Jeff Wood seconds.
Okay, Wendy, how do you vote?
Wendy Littlefield votes aye.
Jeff, how do you vote?
Jeff Wood votes aye.
Martha, how do you vote?
Martha Dudman votes aye.
Matt, how do you vote?
Matt Hart votes aye.
And John votes aye. Great. Thank you, everyone. I will take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
See you tomorrow.
see ya.
See you tomorrow.